Good morning, PASW staff, clients, and friends joining us. Welcome to Wednesday's class. We've had a busy week, as we always do. We looked at Mozart on Monday and his beautiful melodies. Then we went to Sweden and looked at the cinema of Ingmar Bergman with his classic, 1957 classic, The Seventh Seal, where this guy coming back from the war plays this chess game on the beach with the Grim Reaper and tries to outsmart or postpone death. That probably sounds like a weird sentence, so if you missed yesterday's class, go back and watch it. You'll understand what I'm talking about. We were talking about metaphor in cinema. And Bergman was very influential in starting that. So we'll do some more film history probably next week, maybe once a week, twice a week, we'll see. Okay, so let's get right to work. So we're going to look today at a composer, Michael Nyman. And if you don't know his name, that's okay. He is another minimalist composer. So we've looked at Philip Glass with his repetitive structures and rhythms. We looked at Steve Reich with his tape loops, with his also with these repetitive structures. We've looked at John Adams, who used these repetitive structures in using a large orchestra. So now we're going to look at Michael Nyman, and today we're going to figure out what makes him a different minimalist composer, because all of these guys have classical music training, of course, but they're all, even though they're all in their 70s, 80s now, they're all modern composers in a sense, contemporary composers, I should say. So, okay, Michael Nyman, 1944 born. He's an English composer and actually coined the term minimalism because he was a musicologist, kind of while he was studying music, but really he was kind of a critic before a composer. Known for many film scores, in particular with Peter Greenaway, who we'll get to, and Jane Campion's The Piano, which we'll look at, which was a huge success. Let's look at the beginning of Michael Nyman's life. He studied at King's College in London and the Royal Academy of Music, and he focused on piano and 17th century Baroque music. So, in particular, the composer Henry Purcell. Henry Purcell is very important to this class because although Purcell was late 17th century, which was a long time ago, we're going to see how Michael Nyman uses Purcell's music hundreds of years ago and updates it and makes it fresh and contemporary. So stay with me here. This is tricky, right? But we're going to get through this. This is going to be fun. We're going to see how he uses Baroque music in a minimalist fashion, in an updated minimalist way. So let's see how he does that. So from 8 to 17, Michael Nyman gets his musical training, but not as a composer. He was self-taught as a composer. And after college, he starts writing articles as a music critic. And in 1968, he coins the term minimalism. He was the first one. He went to a concert by a Danish composer and named it that, which is funny because we use that term, but I feel like all of the composers don't like that term, all the minimalist composers, but okay, regardless. So in the 1960s, he was this musicologist writing in London, and he was very aware of pop music and very aware of the Beatles, the Everly Brothers, Velvet Underground, Pink Floyd later, so all of this popular music going around. So he has this classical education with all this great popular pop music going on in the 60s, 70s. And so one of the first pieces he toys with is this famous piece of Mozart's from Don Giovanni. Listen to this.
Madame, il catalogo questo delle belle chiamò il padron mio, un catalogo che è claffattio. Osservate, leggete con me, osservate, leggete con me.
So that's a very famous aria. Okay, so one of the first pieces is that he listens to this. This is how he gets into composing. He listens to this Mozart thing, and he thinks, maybe I could use the same chord structures, the same chord progressions. and update it, put my own quirky twist melody to it. And he uses the influence of Jerry Lee Lewis. Yes, that Jerry Lee Lewis. And he dictates the dynamic, the articulation, the texture of everything, and he uses that. So he mixes Mozart with Jerry Lee Lewis, and he really comes up with this original piece in 1977, in Re Don Giovanni. This really catapults him into this really original minimalist composer. So if you can hear, the chord progressions are similar, right? It's not quite plagiarism. It's not, but it's close to, well, chord progression wise. It's the same chords, but it sounds way different, right? So he starts getting more into kind of avant-garde film music. Not really avant-garde, but we'll talk about them. So in 1961, he meets somebody very important at the while he's a student at the Royal Academy of Music, and that person is Peter Greenaway. I've mentioned Peter Greenaway a few times in class, and Peter Greenaway is my favorite director, and we can do a different class on Peter Greenaway. But with what Peter Greenaway and Michael Nyman accomplished during the 80s and early 90s was truly remarkable. And they were very close, and Greenaway had a big room in the back of his house in East Finchley, and he used to show movies on Friday and Saturday nights. So they would watch movies together. So the first film soundtrack that catapults both composer and director into the main, kind of the mainstream, is the Draftsman's Contract, which came out in 1982. So here Nyman draws on the early music of Henry Purcell, like we talked about at the beginning of class. So do you hear how funny and quirky and humorous the music is? It's very melodic music, and he says this where he's probably, there's more melody in his music than any other minimalist composer, like Glass, Reich, Adams, and I think that's true to say. There's this pulsating rhythm, but there's melody going on top of this rhythm. The next huge film that they do is from 1989, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Now, I can't really show you any scenes from that movie because it's one of the most disturbing films ever made. One of my favorites of all time, but here's a little bit of his music from that movie. So in 1993, he writes a movie to Jane Campion's film The Piano, which is very critically acclaimed. And the album became a classic bestseller, and he was nominated for a Golden Globe and a British Academy Award. And The Piano, it's a New Zealand period drama film about a psychologically mute young woman and her pre-adolescent daughter during the mid-19th century. So those are the pieces that I wanted to focus on concerning Michael Nyman. Super brilliant, clever, genius composer, still writing today, and tours with his group, the Michael Nyman Band, that formed in 1976. I wish they would come to the United States, but I don't think he ever comes over here. So hope you enjoyed Michael Nyman's music, and brilliant minimalist composer. So, okay, I've said it all, you've said it all. We've all said it all. I'll see you tomorrow for Thursday's class. Thanks.